Let's see. Is it working? Is it working now? Is it working? It seems to be working how? It didn't work the other way. I don't know. But here we are. And it would appear that we are successfully live streaming now. After 2 failed attempts to live stream heretofore. Ron Allen Salon has arrived to prove that we do in fact exist. As says Dumb Genius.
Dumb Genius and Ron Allen Salon.
So, what is up? Interesting question. Good question. Important question. The kind of question that makes you wonder, what is up, really? And the answer is, not a whole hell of a lot. Thanks. It's, I've been cleared. I've been screened by the DMV. That's what this sticker says here. DMV screened.
So proud.
Yeah, I'm really proud to have been screened by the DMV. Hi, Grogu.
What up?
I'm down. Everything above your head. It's well said, Grogu. Well said. I'm down to answer whatever kind of questions people have, particularly about TV shows and type. I've been watching lots of shows. The shirt is not that fancy. I've worn this shirt plenty of times. You talking about her shirt?
It may look invisible.
Oh, right. It looks invisible. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty fancy shirt.
It's just yellow, so it's blending in with the green screen.
Yeah. DMV should be privatized. I mean, what services does the DMV provide that people actually want or need, you know? That's really the question. And the answer is none. Nobody really wants that sticker on the back of their car that badly. No, I haven't seen Dark yet. Rachel and I have been watching a number of different things. Mm-hmm. We watched The Witcher on Netflix. We watched Daybreak on Netflix. We watched... what else did we watch, Rachel?
The Kabaddi.
Oh, yeah. We've watched Kabaddi. What's that? It's a new anime on Crunchyroll called Kabaddi something or other. And I don't know if you've heard about Kabaddi, but Kabaddi is this sport. It's basically like wrestling plus tag. But then Rachel and I got into watching some World Chase Tag.
Yes.
Have you guys ever seen World Chase Tag? It is really fun.
Really fun.
It's really fun to watch.
We were able to watch like several back to back because it was so entertaining. It just like the action kept on coming. Hey, Robert Ray.
Hi, Robert Ray. Yeah, I strongly suggest. I would not suggest getting the extended versions of Lord of the Rings unless you're really a Lord of the Rings fanatic or an INFP. INFPs, INTPs, they tend to. World Chase Tag is fantastic. It's every bout in World Chase Tag is 20 seconds long, and the chaser has 20 seconds to catch the guy. And there's this little like obstacle course thing, and they basically are parkouring around these things trying to touch the other guy. You know.
Hi, Pee-Pee. I haven't seen Mindhunter, but is that the show does it take place in the 70s, Ron Allen Salon? I believe that Delilah was watching that show.
Well, what I was referring to specifically around Allen Salon is the INFP and INTP tendency to fetishize something that they liked before and keep going back to it and get the extra premium edition collector's item version of it. Both those third slot SI types tend to do that with pieces of media. Mindhunter's from the 70s.
Cool.
Is it a TV show or what?
I think is Ron Allen Salon. Is it on Netflix? When we were in Hawaii, Delilah was watching it, and she was like mind blown by the what the characters were wearing. She loved the aesthetics from the 70s. She's like, this is what my dad would wear? It was really cute. But, yeah, I've never seen it.
Hi, turn up the music. I'll have to check it out. Never heard of it before.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we could check. That's definitely something that we could check out. Oh, serial killers. Oh my gosh. Sometimes if I get a little too deep into that stuff, I creep myself out. Like, American Murder Story or whatever. American Crime Story. You know, like the one that they did on O.J. Simpson and, Gianni Versace. Like, incredibly engaging. Like, wow, do they, like, really go into it. But, like, I was like, oh my gosh, these people exist who, like...
I don't like depressing stuff in general. Anytime something gets a little depressing, I don't want to see it. Like, I don't know. I don't like
that
sad
kind of
stuff.
stuff is, yeah, it's really... It gets to me. I can't watch too much of that stuff.
Genesis got a point there.
That's funny, Karma's Pimp. I do have a Gaia subscription. Not subscription, but I have it on my app. On my Roku. But I don't follow it anymore.
What's with anime and letting your favorite characters die? Which anime let your favorite characters die? I mean, I feel that about Death Note.
Oh yeah, I was really upset about that. I think I actually stopped watching with Eric after
I finished it out, but it was all anticlimactic after that one dude was killed.
Yeah. I feel like I stopped watching.
I have to go pee now.
Oh. Okay.
Let me see the scope of the camera angle. I'll be fine.
Yeah, you know. I get affected. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more affected by, like, things that are kind of not down. They're kind of downers.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I was always affected negatively by them, though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Genzennial is, peeing right now, too, coincidentally.
Hey, we can be Pete brothers.
Yeah.
All we have to do is cross the streams and then pinky swear and we're Pete brothers.
Yeah, I could lead you guys in a song and a dance.
Another thing Rachel and I have been watching is Drunk History, which is quite entertaining.
Yes.
The good ones
Drunk
anyway
History is a good one. It's so well put together. Like having the characters talk as the narrator.
Yeah, it's a good concept.
Yeah. Makes for good comedy. And like really interesting facts too. Like I'm into history just in general, so like to kind of like hear these stories about, you know, different people who affected, you know, America and other places in the country. I mean, the world. It's really cool. You love crime documentaries, Robert Ray? I know people who love them too. Who like to I mean,
SFJs love those things.
yeah.
I also wanted. Oh, you know what would be a good story for Drunk History to tell?
What?
The story of that one Japanese soldier who continued fighting the war until like 1957 or something.
Yeah. That would be great. There's probably so many that they had to go through. And from what we saw, they have to actually get stuff, the information has to be historically accurate. They make sure that it is, which is cool. I like that.
Although the dialogue, I suspect, is wildly not representative of
No.
the actual dialogue.
No. It's not at all, which is great. It makes it modern.
That's where the funny comes from.
Yeah.
So that's a particularly interesting, crazy history story, is the fact that there was this one Japanese soldier who kept fighting on in World War II, well beyond the end of World War II, for over a decade more.
Wow.
And I guess he was in the Philippines. And he eventually surrendered when he wouldn't give up until they brought his commanding officer to order him to stand down.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's some trail.
Absolute history and weird history. Weird history sounds like a good channel.
Yeah.
I do actually have a history of watching some of those weird history things, you know?
Do you?
Yeah. Right, no one gets to say they're hardcore anymore after that guy. Yeah, he continued fighting World War II well into the 50s.
Wow.
He wouldn't believe any of the things that said that Japan had lost and the war was over. He thought they were all propaganda tricks by the enemy.
Wow.
For a while, there was 3 of them. And one of them died, one of them finally gave up, and then there was just him for another 5 years or something.
That is a warrior. You should be the one who tells that story.
Yeah, he's badass. And he was disgusted with Japan that he came back to. What happened to this badass country that I came from? Maybe Fourth Slot NI, yeah, maybe ESFP.
Who?
The guy who fought on World War II.
Yeah, maybe ESFP, yeah. Naruto's based on him.
Let me Google
That's
it
not true.
and see what it says regarding that. The Japanese soldier who didn't surrender. He didn't die until 2014.
Wow.
Wait. There was another guy, Teruo Nakamura, surrendered in 1974? What? Oh, you know what? Hiro Onoda was also 1974. Yeah, he surrendered in 1972. 1974. After the war ended, Onoda spent 29 years hiding out in the Philippines until his former commander traveled from Japan to formally relieve him of duty by order of Emperor Showa in 1974. He held the rank of second lieutenant in the Imperial Japanese Army. He was the second to last Japanese soldier to surrender, with Teruo Nakamura surrendering later in 1974. Onoda continued his campaign to the Japanese holdout, initially living in the mountains in the Philippines with 3 fellow soldiers. The first time they saw a leaflet announcing Japan had surrendered was October 45. They distrusted the leaflet. They concluded it was Allied propaganda, and also believed that they would not have been fired on if the war had indeed been over. Toward the end of 1945, leaflets were dropped by air with a surrender order printed on them from General Tomoyuki Yamashita of the 14th Area Army. To the men who had been hiding for over 6 months, this leaflet was the only evidence that the war was over. Onoda's group studied the leaflet closely to determine whether it was genuine and decided it was not. One of the 4 soldiers walked away from the others in 1949 and surrendered to Philippine forces in 1950 after 6 months on his own. This seemed like a security problem to the others, and they became even more cautious. In 1952, letters and family pictures were dropped from an aircraft urging them to surrender, but the 3 soldiers concluded this was a trick. Shimada was shot in the leg during a shootout with local fishermen, after which Onoda nursed him back to health. On May 1954, Shimada was killed by a shot fired by a search party looking for the men. Kazuko was killed by 2 shots fired by local police in 1972, while he and Onoda, as part of their guerrilla activities, were burning rice that had been collected by farmers.
Oh my god.
It's 1972. These fuckers are burning rice to help the Japanese World War II war effort. Are you kidding me? And so then he was all alone after 1972. He spent 2 years. But then on February 20th, 1974, Onoda met a Japanese man, Norio Suzuki, who was traveling around the world looking for Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, the abominable snowman, in that order. Suzuki found Onoda after 4 days of searching. Onoda described this moment in a 2010 interview. This hippie boy Suzuki came to the island to listen to the feelings of a Japanese soldier. Suzuki asked me why I would not come out. Onoda and Suzuki became friends, but Onoda still refused to surrender, saying that he was waiting for orders from a superior officer. Suzuki returned to Japan with photos of himself and Onoda as proof of their encounter, and the Japanese government located Onoda's commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, who had long since surrendered and become a bookseller. Taniguchi went to the island, and on March 9th, 1974, he finally met with Onoda and fulfilled the promise he made back in 1944. Whatever happens, we'll come back for you. Taniguchi then issued Onoda the following orders. We're no longer at war. You're relieved of all military duties, and you're to cease all military operations. Thus, he was properly relieved of duty and he surrendered. He turned over his sword, a functioning Arisaka Type 99 rifle, 500 rounds of ammunition, several hand grenades, as well as the dagger his mother had given him in 1944 to kill himself with if he was captured.
Wow, what a story.
That's crazy. He refused a large sum of money in back pay. Huh. I wonder why. Well, isn't that interesting?
So interesting.
It is a trick. No surrender.
It's a trick, no surrender.
Genexios claiming him for his own type.
Oh, yeah?
Genexios claiming that guy is ISTP. Could be ISTP.
Could be.
I mean, the thing is, how much, and what a a weed edible does to you is very variable. So it's like Rachel and I got the last time. Was it 350, 400 milligrams total?
Something like that, yeah.
And we had, I think, about, I don't know, maybe we had 100 milligrams each or something.
Mm-hmm.
And those last ones we got were quite good because they had Delta 8 THC, which is kind of, I think, a good idea to get that up in the mix there. But it depends on the quality of the edible. I have no idea the Panther.
The quality of the edible.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend, for people who don't smoke a lot of weed or consume a lot of weed regularly, I wouldn't recommend 100 milligrams. It's probably too much, you know. But for me and Rachel, it's not too much.
No. It seems to be just right, actually, when we have it.
Yeah. I think this last time we started out with like 4 pieces each.
So like 5.
5 pieces each.
There's 10 total.
Was it 100 or 200 milligrams total?
That I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. The thing is, it takes eating a lot of weed to really make a big impact on me. I've seen Rachel get very much like taken down by a large amount of edibles, where her eyes get super red, and she's like,
Yeah.
Usually, if I get a little bit over high, I'll lie down, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
you'll let down.
But today, you know, was a very productive day for me. I feel very good about the things I got accomplished today.
I do too. For you.
The Panther, that's not a bad idea. I got my prescription called in. I got my healthcare thing filled out, questionnaire filled out for the dentist tomorrow. I got my driver's license renewed successfully. It was a lot easier than I had feared, and I feel kind of silly about being so avoidant about it for such a long time. If you don't do a lot of edibles, I wouldn't suggest starting with 100 milligrams. I'd suggest starting with about 20.
Yeah.
You know, and see how you feel with that. If you are full blast, you know, THC processing factories like me and Rachel, then you need a little bit more than that probably.
Yeah. You'll learn that as you go.
And it's not fun if you do too much, so avoid doing too much. And it's not necessarily fun even if you do the right amount. It's just kind of like, if you're feeling like, then it'll be like, okay, well, now I feel kind of like,
Yeah. It's true.
5 milligrams is too much? No, it's ridiculous. Nobody's gonna have too much of an impact from 5 milligrams. That would be fun. But anyway, the pharmacy texted me and said they have to special order my medication. It's like they do like every other month, it seems like. What does he claim to be? Oh, Grogu, never mind. Grogu's talking about her boyfriend or his boyfriend. Their boyfriend. My boyfriend's back and you're gonna be sorry. Hey nah, hey la, my boyfriend's
back. My boyfriend's Eric.
That's right. I'm more than just your boyfriend. I'm your man friend.
Yeah, you are.
Rachel is my wife, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really correct people when they say, hey, you and your husband seem like nice people.
Right, and if I go out in the world and I'm referring to her, I'm more likely to refer to her as my wife than I am my girlfriend. But the thing is, Rachel and I are rarely not together.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to refer to her as my wife if we're not together, because I guess of TI reasons. Like, there's nobody present to correct me, and it's such an irrelevant detail that it doesn't matter if I'm being precise about it when I'm dealing with some other random person in the world.
Yeah.
I think he's probably an INFJ. I think CPT probably is. I wouldn't mind. That doesn't mean I can't type police him, but it probably wouldn't put him in jail. I'd have to watch some more of his stuff, but what I've seen and what I've encountered from him so far is consistent with INFJ. What else have I watched recently that I wanted to talk about?
Irimu, that one. Welcome to See, that's the thing. I'm so bad with the names of the...
Welcome to Demon School.
Yeah.
Iramu.
Yes.
That's pretty good. Pretty fun. I like it.
It is.
You've been with your boyfriend for over 10 years. You still say boyfriend. Well, when does your boyfriend say the same thing? I mean, does he use the same language? The equivalent language? Or does he level up and say spouse? Or level up and say life partner? Oh, I don't know. Oh, Harry's claims to be an INTJ. Oh, I see. Are you guys planning on getting married, Grogu? You've been together for 10 years. You're still boyfriend and girlfriend? I was together for 7 years before I got married to my second wife. No reason or what? Marriage is overrated? Have you been married before? You're right about marriage being overrated, but...
That's good to know.
I mean, it's nothing is what it is. NITE and NI, not NI, NITI, not NITE, so it's still INFJ. I mean, I claim he's an INFJ based on what I've seen before, but I don't know, I have to pay attention. What do we need the government in order to recognize us? I don't need no piece of paper from the city hall, making us tried and true. Oh, hi, old man, taking away my blues. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow. You know that song, everybody?
I don't. Who sings that?
The bed's too big, the frying pan's too wide. It's Joni Mitchell.
Oh!
We don't need no piece of paper from the city hall, making us tried and true. No, my old man, taking away my blues. And it's so long. Meow, 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 meow. The bed's too big, the frying pan's too wide.
That's so great.
What type am I as terms of music? Do you mean mean? Do you mean me? I am an ISFP. Relationships don't become something more just because you change the words. Well, surprisingly, I agree with you. They don't. Well, I'll put it this way: they don't become something more just because you change the overarching status label. But they do. They comprise very much the words that you say to each other. So it's both. I agree with that and disagree with it a little bit. But I agree with you when it comes to marriage. I mean, I've had 2 marriages and they both ended in divorce. So far, it's batting 0.
Aw.
The institution of marriage is batting 0 in my life.
In your life.
Yeah.
That's good to know. You know? So maybe not marriage is where your batting average will get higher.
Well, I mean, I continue to and will always continue to operate in the assumption this is my very last relationship.
Yes, I do too. That's nice. That's a nice feeling.
You don't like the words husband and wife, so archaic and based in ownership? Listen, chattel. You need to get married so that you have to obey your husband. You need to vow to obey him. Okay? You get in the kitchen and you start obeying right now.
What does that obeying include?
Well, it just says, Garvey was saying that husband and wife are archaic and based in ownership.
Oh.
Well, somebody's got to own the women, right? I mean, God. They can't possibly own themselves.
No way.
That's asking too much.
Way too much.
I'm just joking, ladies. Warning, please check the video resolution. The video resolution is not optimal. I don't think I can change it while I'm streaming, though. Well, the thing is, I would say that Rachel and I are both very much opposed to power dynamics or something. Like, neither of us wants to have to bust the other person's chops at all.
No.
We'd rather be chop bust free.
It's true.
You down with chop bust free? Baby, you know me. Who's my favorite Attack on Titan character, if you have one? Probably, what's that lady's name?
Mikasa?
No, the ESTJ lady.
Oh.
Hanji?
Holmes?
Hanji. Right? Is that her name? Hanji? Well, there was no point in it for me. It was... Yeah, sure. I could play your 29-second short. Gen X and Neil. How do you spell your name? God. Why do you have such a difficult name to spell? Gen Xennial. That's how you spell it, right? Oh. Like that. Like that? There it is.
Hi, Pee-Pee.
This is your new short?
I mean, holy cow, that was radical.
I guess he uses the word radical a lot.
He must.
Sometimes I daydream of being married, but other days I just want to run off to live in the woods with no human contact.
Ooh.
Still, third days I long to be part of polygamy and a Mormon commune, and yet fourth days I hope to be the man in a harem in the Middle East. Are those all the things you feel to come to music?
Wow, that's a lot. It feels.
Non-stop orgies. Some days it's non-stop orgies. Some days it's just living off in the woods.
Orgies.
Yeah, we were watching a show that had an orgy in it the other night. Last
Yeah.
night, right?
Yeah.
The Witcher. The Witcher had an
Witcher
orgy. Witcher has a lot of unnecessary BOOBS.
Yeah, I would definitely say B-O-O.
Pretty gratuitous in its BOOBSs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't generally like to. You know, the time I want to really look at BOOBSs, probably if I'm by myself, you know?
Yeah. Right? That makes sense.
Maybe rubbing one out or something, but not really in my shows.
I know. It just mixes too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I'm not much of a Ted Cruz fan. I will say this, though. I registered today as a Republican. It's the first time I've ever registered as a Republican.
Gosh, wow, that's a big thing. So you're registered, huh?
Yep. To run as a Republican, I obviously need to be registered as a Republican, so.
Yeah.
RR is here. And he's saying Pog.
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 Indeed.
Well, turn off the music. Which one do you think you're going to end up choosing out of all those options?
Yeah. I'm interested.
Do you have a long-term plan? Do you have a 10-year plan that involves marriage and children? Well, I don't feel like I'm any more Republican than I've ever been before, but I feel as though it's the party I need to be in right now, I guess. Certainly it needs me.
Yes.
No plans. No plans for a significant other and children, huh? Well, you could be like, what's his name? David Letterman. And just hump your way through the company, through all of NBC.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I would. Is that accurate? Is that...
I think that's accurate.
So he humped his way through? Or he just... he was...
Well, I think he humped a lot of the people at NBC.
Oh, got
Like
you.
his assistants and
Okay.
their assistants and...
I wasn't sure if it was like he made his way up to the top.
No, I don't think he humped his way into his job.
Gotcha. He
Usually
just
men aren't
humped
accused of that.
What?
Usually men aren't accused of that.
That's why I was like asking. I'm like, wow, he got its way up through the top through Rompin?
Paul Gray means southpaw. For the Earl's intimate friends, it's called Paul Gray tea. Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? These are the questions that plague audiences today when they're watching things on TV. That's what we're talking today on the Talking with Famous People podcast. I've got special guest Jeff Goldblum here, star of famous movie The Fly.
I was just going to say The Fly.
Also star of those Apartments.com commercials.
Does he now?
Yeah, he does.
Wow.
So Jeff Goldblum, what's going on? Wow, I'm doing Apartment.com commercials. I think the best term to call oneself, if one is in fact like me, and agrees with me on all political positions, is to call oneself a correctist. I'm a correctist, which means I have exactly the correct position on every specific political position that there is to have a position on, considering all vectors and factors. So, being correct about everything is not ascribing to any dogma whatsoever, and not allowing the dogmatic frame to control your decision making.
Oh, what a prowl.
When a nation such as ours has a disease of discourse, it calls for a statesman who is not merely a statesman, but also a metaphysician.
Yes.
Let us cure the disease of bad discourse that plagues our nation. I, the metaphysician and statesman Eric Strauss, shall cure us of our woes. Amen.
Amen. Woo! That sounds like a really good speech.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
When I give speeches, I'll affect the black preacher accent. That should go over well.
Yeah, real well.
You need that piece with a fun type? As long as you don't care about your rights. I am a true Southern Democrat. Now, you might say, what's a simple man from the country like you got to share with us slick city folk?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it's these down-home heartland values that will bring me all the way from the dirt house to the White House.
Wow.
Everyone in the audience goes, I'm going to fill all my audiences with Oprah-style black women.
I like that. Oprah-style black women.
Like hype people, hype men and stuff,
yeah,
right? Just
yes,
hype people in the background.
Hallelujah.
Preach it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to do just Jesse Jackson the whole time. We will go from a country with an underclass to a country that has no class. We will go from a land of oppression to a land of depression to a land of impressions, where everybody is making impressions of everything all the time. Some people say we cannot do. I say we can do and must do. It's like how Jesse Jackson wrote his speeches. Just, you know.
You're like,
You say you want a hamburger, but I say it's time for us to have a burger ham.
yeah, exactly.
What? What are you talking about, Jesse Jackson? The question is moot. Do you think which types are most common changes over time? That's a very strangely phrased sentence, Grogu. Do you think which types are most common changes over time? Well, I mean, I think all the types change in one of two predictable ways. They either evolve or devolve. So, for somebody who's generally stuck in an ontologically aggressive environment, then they're going to be reducing the self to their easy strengths, things that work, and avoiding risks, and just generally constraining the self. In environments where they are well loved and appreciated for who they are and not criticized and critiqued and checked at every turn, then they have the capacity to become a broader self, to take more risks, and to understand the limitations of the self better. They are less defensive, because they have less defending to do. And so, I think it has a lot to do with circumstance. You can change that to some extent, but sometimes that's very difficult, It may take a long time to change it. ENFPs caring about their rights. Oh, they care about their rights. They just don't care about other people's rights. Paul Gray. They care just fine about rights that they care about. They just don't care about rights they don't care about because that's for other people. And other people, like Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah is a perfect example of an ENFP who doesn't give a fuck about anybody's rights and who just mocks anybody who questions the blind, alarmist COVID shit, Or INFJ is the last of the 16 types to drive. Possibly. Or INTPs, maybe. Oh, you mean like... Oh, I don't know about that. I have no opinion about that. You grew up with constant harsh criticism of your type tendencies, big time somebody deserved though. I grew up with some sort of basically long-suffering critique from my dad, who as an ESTJ is my benefactor, and I was always being told not to try to reinvent the wheel. I got a lot of TE critique, right? But then I also got a lot of just mindless love and adoration from my mom, and my dad was always, he always loved me. He was frustrated at my lack of, I guess, what he would consider, manly basics. I just wasn't good at fixing shit. I wasn't interested really in cars, and I wasn't really very interested in sports. So regarding the ESFPs not caring about words, that stems from two things. It's because the tool function FI, which in conjunction with SE, means that you've got them doing shit based on how they feel. They're blind to TI, which means they always think that words are an attempt to express one's inexpressible self. not things that mean stuff. So it's there's an alternative to thinking that words mean things, which is that people mean things and that words fail to express them. R. Crumb is an example of, I think, an ISFP who is quoted as saying, "Words fail me. Pictures aren't much better." I think R. Crumb is one of the more talented ISFP artists I could think of, and a bit of a freak. He could possibly be. I'm pretty sure he's ISFP. I was gonna say maybe INFP, but I'm pretty sure ISFP. Are you familiar with his work? He's the guy who drew these weird cartoons for I guess Rolling Stone or something else, I don't know, in the 70s, and there are pictures of like these ladies with really big legs, and they like have like guys riding on their backs and stuff.
Oh wow.
R. Crumb. It's R. Crumb. Like that. I'll look it up on the internet. R. Crumb. So he drew Fritz the Cat, which was this very, very sexualized. He has varieties of women.
Oh my god.
And a lot of his women look like this, like with these big, thick, long legs and thighs. And a lot of times they'll have like guys riding on their back. Like little guys riding on their back.
What? And he's an ISFP.
I think he's an ISFP.
Oh.
But he could be an INFP. He's one of the two. He's definitely an FI Dom. Anyway, interesting fellow. I mean, INFJ is a personality type that prioritizes singularity and relevance and knowing on sort of an external universal level what's true, and then engaging gracefully or with full subtextual awareness of the FE impacts of everything. Yeah, the thing is, what I just did there is describe a personality type. You'll notice that I described the relationship between the first and second function. That's a personality type. There are ways of paying attention, and it's that pairing of ways of paying attention that. Does FI critic have high moral standards that both INFJs and ISFJs can't even follow themselves? That's a good question. What do you think about that, Rachel? Does FI 6 slot mean that you find yourself having high moral standards that you yourself can't always meet?
Probably.
Well, I know that I've seen Rachel, and I suspect this is true of ISFJs in general, beat herself up when she thinks she's hurt someone's feelings. She doesn't, unless she's purposely done it, which is rare, but possible.
It really does, affect. If I could turn back time, sort of thing. I definitely do get affected by hurting someone's feelings.
Inner rage can vary from person to person regardless of type and function placement. Well, yeah, totally. That's true. Do TI Dom and 5th TE mean they're worried that other people are stupid? No, they're not worried that other people are stupid. They are. When something is stupidly useless or non-useful, they dismiss the people responsible for that. But humanity. Well, INFJ bros like that, he blames people's failures on them being immoral rather than just not knowing better or something like that. Well, that's true in general, I think, with FE and I. Is that, and that means you too, lessons fall. I think that STPs and NFJs tend to make the fundamental attribution fallacy a lot, which is to say, they assume that because something was done a certain way that there's some intention behind it, and a lot of shit that's random is not really intentional. I think that the beta quadra has a tendency to assign intention where there's not. Of course, the upside of that is they're unlikely to get caught by hidden intentions when there is intentions. So, it's a double-edged sword. You're going to get more false positives, but you also get fewer false negatives. So, But yeah, I think that's definitely a beta quadra thing, is attributing intention. Who benefits? Who benefited from this is the most beta quadra of questions. Well, because it's NI and FE. SI and FE understands people. Everybody projects their own version of the functions onto everybody else. So it's like, when I go through the world, I'm basically operating the assumption that you know yourself the same way that I know myself. You know the world the same way that I know my world, which is through your experiences. And really, NI people don't really think like that. Probably the type that most is like that is your fourth slot NIs. They have a more active relationship with their SI, but Paul Gray, of course I do. But to continue what I was saying, Beta Quadra, I think you get perceived as both ends of the spectrum. On the one hand, they're perceived as kind of young, like ESTPs are, and ISTPs can be considered kind of young in their tastes or their habits or their activities or whatever. But on the other hand, you get INFJs, who are generally considered to be old souls because they are perceived as such, and ENFJs, who are often perceived to be alive with fervor or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly how to put it, but an ENTJ said, "Why try to understand what can't be understood?" Referring to philosophy. What do they mean from a cognitive function standpoint? Well, an ENTJ is operating with a tool function frame. So it's saying, remember, the abstract mapping truth of things is always instrumental, and you're trying to make it an absolute value, an absolute outcome. But we can only ever understand things through their instrumental role, and that's just, of course, is the limitation of being an executive to some extent. They always want to apply everything within a frame, and they never think that the ultimate meta frame matters. Now, it's not the case that cognitive functions doesn't explain these things, but it is the case that ENTJs won't find it particularly useful until you can ascribe to them a use first. That's the difference between them and ESTPs, who are also executives, is that ESTPs, being TI, can engage on the correctness level, and while they're not likely to exactly agree with with ENTPs about it entirely. They're much more engageable about the subject because it doesn't always come back to the issue of, well, how is that useful, you know? Okay, well, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah, how are you gonna monetize that? I think I'm gonna wrap it up, and I feel good because I feel like I needed to probably get a little talking done,
That's good.
not just watching and stuff. Rachel and I have been having a good, productive day. She got a lot of stuff done too, and
we were able to go out to eat today too, which was nice.
Paul Gray, why would you think that though? I mean, I've never indicated that at all. I mean, I've never given you any reason whatsoever to conclude that. So, I don't know. You're going to have to ask yourself why you're jumping to those conclusions, I guess. Alright, good night, everybody. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.